This episode of The Republic is brought to you by Audible. For a free 30-day trial and to receive a free audiobook, just head on over to audible.com/gamebreaker.
Gamebreaker TV.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to The Republic, episode 175 for March 14th, 2013. Coming up on today's show, Hutball goes to Kesh, the Marauder class, rep Q&A, and more PTS changes. All that and more. But first, with the Hyperspace Beacon, Mr. Larry Everett, how are you, sir?
I'm good. I've had pie all day today. It's pie day.
What kind of pie?
I'm stuffed. Pizza pie, mostly.
Oh, pizza pie.
Apple pie. Apple pie.
Wow, that's like a perfect day. Pizza pie, apple pie.
I know.
Now I'm hungry.
It's pie
All right,
day.
joining us as well, Laura Williams. How are you, Laura?
I'm great. I did not have any pie today. No
Me
pie.
neither. There's still hours in the day to change that, though. We
Yeah,
can change it.
yeah, it is pie day.
Pie
You need to be
is not
celebrating.
on my diet anymore, so
Not even mincemeat pie?
not even mincemeat pie. No pie. I am pie
Joining
less.
us this week. Joining us this week as well. Slowly taking over Gamebreaker TV, one show at a time. Mr. Mike Byrne, how are you, sir?
I am well, sir. I, too, have had pie today.
Have you?
I did. Pizza. If apparently that counts.
Apparently it does. When
Counts
you
for-
said pie,
counts for
my
me.
brain did not think about that. It went to apple, it went to pumpkin, it went to blueberry, it did not go to pizza, but now the combination of pizza and pie sounds fantastic. All right, show's over. Going to get pizza. All right. What do you guys want to talk about? Let's talk. Get some Kesh stuff here. What do we got? Some new Kesh Huttball map. You guys check this out
That's
yet?
pretty awesome. Yes.
Yeah. What do we think about it? How is it? We got screenshots.
Got screenshots. It's. I haven't got it to pop yet. I have on PTS, so I have not personally got to try it out. But everything that I've seen about it and some of the things that I've heard about it, people are pretty excited about it. They think it's pretty interesting. If that shot right there, the one you're looking at right now, probably shows the best as to what the actual court looks like. It's a smaller court. It's not as long as the original Huttball. And the goals are at the top of this inverted pyramid kind of thing, and at the bottom is the ball. So you can't take the ball and just run, horizontally and get to the goal. You actually have to climb up these different tiers or throw the ball up these different tiers in order to get it to the goal. So it's kind of interesting.
Lots of climbing. It's gonna
Yeah.
be fun. And you can grapple. There's gonna be grappling hooks.
Interesting.
I love
Grappling.
grappling hooks.
Little vertical, little Z-axis action going. Yeah, I don't want to get stuck in that. That doesn't look good.
No,
No,
that's
acid pools that are gonna
Yeah.
slow you down as well as damage you. So it'll be even harder to get out of them.
God,
Yep.
I feel bad for the people I queue up with.
there's that
Yeah,
table.
there's the grappling hook
Yeah,
station,
that-
that blue glowing thing there that you can use to propel up to higher levels. And it's going to give
What
you
a-
a little debuff so that you can't get knocked off immediately after you jump up.
What am I exactly looking at? What are these here? What am I?
No, those are just decoration mostly.
Oh,
It's
just like okay.
The
blue
blue
table
table down at
there.
the bottom.
Gotcha. This is where
Yeah.
you can grab grappling hooks. Okay, I thought these were some sort of significant, maybe something
No,
to aim at or do
I-
something with. So
I don't even know what those are, to be honest, other than decoration. But yeah, you click on the table and it'll launch you up a level, and it's pretty cool.
looks pretty
I'm-
interesting.
I'm digging it. I think it's long past time we got a new Huttball map, but it's absolutely good
yes.
to have one.
Just a bit.
I gotta say, looking at the map, I mean, it looks just as impressive, if not maybe even more than the original. Like, it looks pretty damn cool.
Yeah, I would say it's probably on par with the original. I think it's definitely a different. You're definitely going to have to consider different strategies than you would have in the original Huttball map. I mean, most of it is with the original one is who can run the fastest, and this one isn't exactly the case because the guy with the ball can't use the grappling hooks. He has to either throw the ball or he has to go up one of the ramps in order to get up to the next level, and the ramps are not easy to get to. They're not the easiest thing to get to, and so there's going to be a lot more. I think there's going to be a lot more strategy involved in this one versus just trying to run as fast as you possibly can from one
I
end
don't
to
think it's
the
going
other.
to change the fundamental strategy though, because really, I mean, since the beginning, the key to winning Huttball is all about passing, and that's going to be even more important in this new map. And also, like I said, with the grappling hook, it's going to give you a debuff so that you can't immediately get knocked off as soon as you get up to the next platform. But as long as you have that debuff, you can't pick up the ball. So if you've got somebody on the bottom trying to pass up, it's not like they can just have people grapple up and then throw it to those people. So it is going to take, I think, a little bit more coordination. But still the fundamental of passing is going to be probably even more important in this map than it was in the original.
I agree, particularly on that point, because the passing right now will win you a Huttball match with the current map. But if you've got a strong team, it turns into one man carries the ball and everybody else just defends the entire time. So this, I think, makes you more apt to pass the ball to get this up and over into the new goals. I love the map. I hate PvP in SWTOR except for Huttball, and this has me really excited.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting why it was taking so long to get another Huttball map, since it was like, I mean, everyone loved Huttball. Like everyone absolutely just loved it.
Gabe Amantangelo doesn't work there anymore. That's what it is.
Oh, that's right. What were you saying, Laura?
One of the other things that I think is going to help with people passing the Huttball more is they are actually changing quick ground targeting activation. So basically what that means is if you bind your throw the Huttball ability to a key on your keyboard, you can now have a setting to you can target somebody, hit the key twice, and it'll throw it right at their feet.
Oh.
So no more of this running and trying to like throw things further ahead of somebody to see that they get it, or just hopefully it'll kind of eliminate some of that randomly throwing it around, unless you're trying to get rid of the ball because you're in the end zone and you're going to die. There's nobody to pass to, and you don't want the other team to grab it.
How do you guys feel about that? Does it sound? It almost sounds like it. Does it? There. I don't want to use the term easy mode, but it almost sounds like it's going to make it a little easier.
It's definitely.
I think it'll make it easier, but if this encourages people to pass more, overall, I think people will be happier with it. And if you don't want this ability turned on, you will have an option to disable it and just have regular passing like there is in the game currently. I think there's nothing more frustrating than being on that team with somebody that absolutely refuses to pass the ball, or they don't even have the ability on their bar, or they run around like a chicken with their head cut off because they're like, oh God, why did you pass me the ball?
Wow, Laura just described my entire Huttball life. Like the entire thing from top to bottom.
That guy.
I had 2 matches when the game when it first came out. I had 2 matches before I realized that there was an ability I needed to pull out onto my Huttbar.
Dude, did you have all of your bars filled? Because it like automatically sticks it in there the first time you go in.
I didn't start queuing for any PvP until I was max level. I'm not a PvP guy in general, but I really enjoy Huttball. But I am, I'm freaking terrible at it.
And Huttball is going to be 8 versus 8. So, yeah, it's not going to be Warzone-y. I know for people who are, or it's not going to be Arena for people who are worried about that.
Mike, you're not the guy who vended his Hearthstone, are you?
I'm good at PvE.
I had a guy in our guild do that, by the way. That's hilarious.
Oh, jeez.
Awesome.
Didn't even know you did. I don't know. Yeah, it looks great. I think that they should be. Hopefully, they can develop some more Huttball maps. I mean, It's unfortunate that you can't get this thing to pop on PTS.
Yeah. From my understanding, the first weekend, the first weekend I was testing out the flashpoints and things along that line when this all first hit PTS, and so I didn't get a chance to do Hutball, and apparently it was popping that weekend, and yeah, so I just missed it. So, but if you get 16 people on PTS, I'm willing to go at it and see what happens.
They're all busy playing
You
something
get
else.
16 people, tweet me up. I'm game.
That's right.
Tweet me up, bro. We'll play some Huttball. All right, moving on. The class reps are back in action. We've been waiting for this. So BioWare answered the Marauder questions this week. Can we just get a housing Q&A, maybe, instead of this?
Yeah.
That,
Housing.
that would definitely be bigger news, actually.
Yep.
Yeah, really. Have you
I want to talk about some floor plan layouts.
Speaking of
and
that,
different
have you
size
seen,
houses.
I've been seeing the commercials around. They're promoting this thing. I've been seeing them pop
They're
up.
hitting it pretty. I was really surprised. They actually had it like whenever I tuned in to Game Breaker. That was the commercial that was
Yeah,
up.
it's housing.
Yep. So they're hitting it pretty hard. Hopefully, it's going to be a big thing.
BioWare, give us a housing Q&A. We'd love to get
That's
some.
right. They will. I'm
answers.
sure they will. I'm sure they
I
will.
think the comments would have been filled with a little less vitriol had this been a housing Q&A, because the comments on this one weren't exactly great.
All right, so what do you guys think of the Marauder questions?
What do you think of the questions themselves? A couple of them were pretty good. I'm kind of iffy on the first one. I mean, I get the first one. I'm not saying that it wasn't a question that didn't need to be asked. So I mean, it's definitely a question that needed to be asked. But I'm not sure where, in the whole scheme of things that Marauders needed help with or needed questions answered for, that was necessarily one of them. Mostly considering that Carter spec Marauders really don't have a lot of trouble with much of anything.
So how about from a class rep standpoint? I'm wondering, do you think that the class rep did a good job in kind of getting this thing together?
he definitely conveyed the questions really well. I will give him that. He definitely conveyed the questions really well. I was impressed with that.
Tell me about the first question. What's going on with the first one?
Wow, there's a compliment. Well, he rephrased the questions from the viewers rather well. That's all I'm going to say. We're not going to talk about the answers, but his rephrasing of the question was spot on.
Spot on,
John. Well, no, sometimes it's hard to interpret some of the things that people are looking for. Because I mean, gosh, this sucks right over here. That is not something that is really, tangible. It's hard for a developer to go, okay, yeah, we know that sucks, but why does it suck here, dude? So it was he did a good job of articulating what the actual issue was, and not just saying, well, why can't we be better?
All right, well, explain to me this. What's the first question then? Because I read the first question, and I just saw the word gore being used over and over and over, sometimes slaughter and carnage. I don't know. So what's the short version of the first question?
Basically, it gore and slaughter triggers gore and vicious throw. And what happened? That's RNG. That's complete RNG. And when that pops up is totally based off of chance. And the thing that they were concerned about is that that you're cutting into some of the actual DPS that a Carnage spec can do, and that and it's also like I said, it's RNG oriented, and that it's also very CCable. Like you can get around it during a PvP match by doing things like CCing a Marauder or doing a pushback or something along that line can easily counter what the Marauder is doing. And that was basically the question: is there going to be anything that we can do to change that, make it, I guess, more powerful? I don't know exactly as far as that's concerned, if they were looking for more power, or just is there any idea that you're going to change the way core works?
Mr. Byrne, I'm assuming that you didn't like the response.
Working
From
not as
BioWare?
originally intended, but as intended for now, was basically the reply there. And yeah, I mean, they did go into a little bit of why there's set up, one or two things are set up to trigger certain abilities, and they're not going to do anything with it. They're not going to change anything. There's no plan to, because for them right now, while it's not working as they originally intended it, it is working as they intend for it to work from now on, and they'll monitor the situation. It was generic, kind of canned answer with more detail. That's all.
Well, honestly, I think it's better than, F you. This is how it's supposed to work, dude. I mean, that's pretty much, that was the thing with me and with this question in general. This was the one that was kind of like, why did they ask this question? Because because this is kind of how that spec works. You know what I mean? Why are Sorks better at AoE healing? Well, that's because they have this big thing that they throw on the ground that does AoE healing. Whereas it's kind of asking that sort of question. It's like, Annihilation specs do this, Carnage spec or Annihilation specs are sustained damage, Carnage specs are burst damage, and Rage spec is AoE damage. Well, burst damage, you're gonna have this period of time where you do a whole bunch of damage and then you have a whole lot of nothing. Then a whole bunch of damage and a whole lot of nothing. And that's kind of what they're asking is there any way that we can make Carnage spec a little more sustained? Which, well, that's not what your role does. If you want to do sustained, go to Annihilation spec. That's kind of what I read from the question. And
How'd the
why
community
I think,
react to this? The thread didn't seem super positive.
Well, it wasn't quite Sorkgate, but people in general thought they kind of got some non-answers.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I agree that they did, but this particular one, I kind of expected a non-answer, to be honest.
All right, well, let's go to the next question. Yeah, the next question asks if the devs would design the Annihilation tree as a DPS spec. How did BioWare sum this one up?
We're not completely satisfied with the way it's all working, and we may make changes, but we can't talk about them yet. But your suggestion was a good one. We'll keep it in mind.
Yeah, that's pretty much verbatim what they said.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
And that was a kind of horrible answer.
And
Kinda
that's the
vague.
problem. Like, I would have been a little more forgiving, like Larry on the first question, maybe just kind of, we're going to give this one a pass. It has a place. I don't really expect an answer. But then when you move to the second question and you see the question and the answer, now you're like, okay, where is this post going? We're 2 out of 3 in, and we don't have any information on anything.
Yeah.
Where's this going with the final question? And this is, especially when some of the other class conversations were really good, particularly the Sorcerer one. It was kind of disappointing to see this one roll downhill a little bit right from the start and then just gained momentum the entire way.
Well, again, I guess just to play like devil's advocate for a second, I mean, the answers can only really be as good as the questions, right? So, like, really, did you expect a much better
This
answer?
question was good. This question
Yeah, it was a
actually
great
really
question.
good question. This question was actually based off of things that the developers had said in the past, because the developers had said in the past, your sustained damage is going to be with Annihilation, your burst damage is going to be with Carnage, and your AoE damage is going to be with Rage. And what's happening in and specifically in PvE is that Carnage spec, which is supposed to be your median here, is actually outperforming your Annihilation spec within raids and things along that line because of the way that Carnage is built and the way that the raids are built. And it's not working. You're not getting to sustain damage out of Annihilation spec because Annihilation spec off of one boss, just really briefly, Annihilation spec off of one boss constantly builds up DPS and will ultimately outdo Carnage if there is one boss. But what is happening in most of the current raids and whatnot is that Annihilation spec is having to jump from one mob to another mob to another mob to another mob, even on boss fights, and so that is reducing the amount of DPS that Annihilation spec in general is able to do. Now, I've been able to do pretty well with my Annihilation spec Marauder, but I do know that Carnage spec Marauders can actually outperform me within the current raid setup.
So vague answer is vague, basically.
Yep.
Yes, just a bit.
And then they didn't answer that. So they basically
Nope.
said, so you said this, why isn't this happening? And then they, yeah. We think, yeah, maybe it'll happen someday.
All right, so now let's move to the
Good
final question.
Did you know today is Pi Day?
Pi Day! All right, let's talk about final question. Just to ask the combat team to comment on the future intentions of Marauder specs, mostly in regards to their performance and competitive gameplay with AoE specs. So how did BioWare respond here?
Well, they pretty much told them that the changes that they made were needed to bring them down so that they would be in line with some of the other classes, and that, yeah, that had an impact on the self-healing that Annihilation, had, and that, yeah, they recognize that that's a problem, and maybe they'll consider fixing that in the future, but what was suggested in the forums is just not possible with the engine. So again, another sort of, well,
which is another, that's another thing. I'm sorry, I'm very passionate about my Marauder here. All right, but that's another thing that really irked me is like, okay, well, if that suggestion didn't work, you have another one that you could possibly give us. You know, that's the thing that really irked me about answering. Well, yeah, your suggestion won't work. Okay, you got another one. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. I'm very passionate about my Marauders here.
No, I mean, we've been. Again, we're back on the Q&A train of just like, what is the point of this?
Yeah.
What is the Q&A sucks. Like who gets anything out of this? Do you think anyone's super
we
happy
came away with a great meme for Line of Sight and Huttball.
That's important. Yeah. And unfortunately, this time around, we didn't even get a good meme. I mean, I would have settled for that.
Well, I mean, honestly, if they had questions that they weren't willing to answer or they couldn't provide an answer on, then they really should have gone back to the class rep and said, we can't talk about this. We can't answer this right now. Why don't you give us another question?
Yeah. Give us. Hey, these are going to be pretty bad. We're going to have pretty terrible answers for these. So why don't you give us something, and we'll try to, or instead of, if you're going to answer 3, why don't you give us like 6, and we'll try and pick the best ones. So we have some answers. Like,
or the thing. I mean, if they knew that they're going to, like, for instance, with this, with the second question here, if they knew that there are issues and they're going to make changes in the future, why not give us some of those suggestions, or why not hold off the Marauder questions altogether, and wait till those changes come in?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, they're deciding which questions are going to get posted anyway, which has its pluses and minuses, but a real big plus would be they would pick questions that they felt they could give meaningful answers to, which makes this seem even more bizarre, that these were the questions and answers chosen. I would not be too terribly sad if the Q&A went away again.
all right, let's talk about something a little bit more fun. Tell me about your double XP weekend shenanigans. What's going on? Some things are not working as intended. Tell me about this.
Oh man, Larry and I are racing to see
She's
who can beat.
She's totally winning, but she's winning
Who
because
can beat
of
our
bug.
time from last time. And I am
What's
going
going
to
on?
dominate Larry. Prejudice.
She's only winning because of a bug. See what's happening
Oh,
is seriously, she.
wow.
So this
Right.
is what.
Keep talking, Larry.
So what's happened is the quad drive yards, the tactical flashpoints, the ones that you can do from level 15 to 55, they aren't giving double XP.
Why?
So
I don't know. Apparently, it's broken.
apparently it is broken. That's right. Tate came on. I think it was Tate. The community, one of the community managers came on.
Yes, it was Tate.
And said that it is a bug. We know it's there. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to fix it during this double XP weekend. Well, guess what I have been doing for the last, 3-4 hours at least? I've been doing quad drive yards going, why in the world is Laura out doing it? Because she's running with another one of our guildies, and he is just rocking it when it comes to XP and leveling, and I'm running with 4 other people that are about the same level, and we're not rocking it at all as far as
I got
XP is concerned.
13 levels on him in 4.5 hours, and Larry did.
God. Ouch.
How many did you get, Larry?
I think
4?
4 or 5, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty horrible because
That's
of a
rough,
bug.
Blair. That's rough, Blair.
Because of a bug. He's clinging to it. That's his lifeboat. It's because of a bug. I would have beaten her if it weren't for the bug that took me 4 hours to notice.
That was my question. How do you not notice after 4 hours, Larry? You're just
I didn't.
trucking along. This is not going as fast as I intended. What's happening?
Yeah. We thought. Honestly, what we thought of it.
I actually thought they were getting
was-
great XP. They were like, "Oh yeah, this is really good." I mean, it's taking us like an hour to run through the instance, but
The
yeah,
placebo
it's
effect
slow.
was in
Well,
full
see, that's what
effect.
we were
Same
thinking.
time,
We're
Jason
thinking,
and I
okay,
are just sitting there running, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not going to make my eyes bleed running that over and over and over. We're just going to do what we keep doing." This is
And honestly,
working.
we thought it was just because we were terrible. We're like, gosh, we would really.
We're so good at
really
this game,
suck.
Larry.
Laura's so good. She's got 13 levels. I got 3. Damn. All right.
Oh yeah, man.
Everything
I'm
else
ready to get
working?
going as soon as we get done from here.
You're done. You're just rocking it all weekend.
There's a few things that aren't working. Like there's a few things that just aren't giving double XP. For instance, you're not getting legacy XP. You're not. There's something else that you weren't getting, and I forget what it is off the top of my head. But yeah, it's a little bit buggy this time around.
All right. Well, let's. I want to talk about some of this the Sorcerer on the latest PTS build, but first I want to give a little word from our sponsors, theaudible.com. Love having Audible on. I want to hook you guys up with a free 30-day trial and a free audiobook just by going to audible.com/gamebreaker. Go to the URL, sign up, make an account, and you can download a free audiobook. And let's take a listen to the Star Wars The Old Republic Deceived with Whisper Sync, which, as we have learned from Mike Byrne, is an amazing technology.
I love it. I love
It's
it.
so good.
And paid him no heed as he flew over and past them, their dull black eyes blinking against the snow and ice. He pulled back on the ion engines and slowed still further. A yawn forced itself past his teeth. He sat up straight and tried to blink away the fatigue, but it was as stubborn as an angry bantha. He'd given the ship to the autopilot and dozed during the hyperspace run from Volta, but that was all the rack he'd had in the last 2 standard days. It was catching up to him. He scratched at the stubble of his beard, rubbed the back of his neck, and plugged the drop coordinates into the Navicomp. The comp linked with one of Ord Mantell's unsecured geosync sats and fed back the location and course to Fatman. See its HUD displayed
Check
on
it
the
out,
cockpit
check it
panel.
out. That is Deceived, which can be yours free just by going to audible.com/gamebreaker. If you guys have not checked out Audible, now is the time to do it. Head on over to audible.com/gamebreaker. Like I said, you make an account. It's audiobooks on your iOS device, your Android device, your Kindle Fire, whatever you got. And you're going to get to use the service absolutely free for 30 days and receive 1 free audiobook. There's a bunch of other Star Wars books on there as well. Just give a little search for Star Wars or Star Wars The Old Republic, and you'll see a bunch of returns. So check it out today, audible.com/gamebreaker. All right, so we got some good news for, let's talk about some good news. You guys want good news? We got some good news. I think it's some good news.
Good news
Hopefully.
is
Some good news for
fantastic.
Sorks. Some good news for Sorks in the latest PTS. Wrath has been going through some changes. Whenever the Sork dealt damage with Force Lightning, it would build a charge. At 4 charges, it would make the next Lightning Strike or Crushing Darkness instant and 35% stronger. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, it's not set in stone yet, right? But it looks like that's going down to 3 charges.
Well, they had originally changed it because right now when you use Force Lightning to deal damage, it's only a 30% chance that it's going to build up a charge. So sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. The change had originally made it so that on the first tick of Force Lightning, it would automatically give you this charge, making your next Lightning Strike or Crushing Darkness an instant cast and increasing the damage by 35%. And then they went and tested that, and they were like, oh, this might be a little too overpowered. Like, that's a pretty huge buff. So they have been testing it internally to see if it's going to be a definite proc later in the tick, such as they tried it on 2, now they're trying it on 3. They just want it to be able to have a counter. And, you know, they felt it 1 tick, it didn't.
So good change. Going to make it less vulnerable to interrupts.
Absolutely.
Yep.
But it
Bernie
still makes
seemed-
it pretty mobile too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's
Bernie-
that's my favorite part of it and that's why I was applauding because of the mobility factor that this one adds.
I'm on board with it too. I'm a big proponent of mana spec on both the assassins and on sorts, but and yeah, and one of the things that's really I don't like an RNG, like almost a completely RNG based DPS, and that's kind of what this, at least initially, that's what this is, and or what it was originally. And with this, it makes it a little less RNG, a little more predictable, and so I'm definitely on board with that. I hope this seems like a good balance. 3 seems like a good balance.
All right, bad news for snipers, though, right? And gunslingers, got some bad news. So's got some bad news.
We were doing so well,
We're
Gary.
doing
Why
so
do you have
well,
to go back
BioWare.
to the bad?
Bad news for snipers and gunslingers. BioWare wanted to give them a real defensive cooldown, and we're testing out force and tech immunity on evasion and dodge. So apparently
Screw
that was
you,
just
BioWare, for being Indian givers. This was an awesome buff, and now you're taking it away.
awesome buff or tiny bit OP. You decide.
Well, they're taking it away because they were like, oh, something that can't be countered at all. Yeah, on a 1-minute cooldown. That's...
Yeah, it wasn't a tiny bit OP. It was ridiculously overpowered.
I think it was completely in line with the other nerfs
Get
that
the hell
snipers
outta
have
here.
been given, and they should give this back.
Oh,
That is exactly how I feel.
I like how she referred to it as a buff. It's
Yeah.
a buff. No, it's overpowered. No, it's a buff.
No, it's a buff. We've been taking it. We've been bent over and being forced to take it. I think that we need this, and I think they should give it back.
so Laura's not saying good job. I was gonna say good good job for BioWare listening to player feedback, but obviously not Laura's player feedback. That's for sure.
Just not Laura's.
BioWare still think that they need a stronger defensive cooldown, right? But it doesn't look like they're going to do anything
They
with it in
do.
2.7 at all, right?
Nope. This can just go down along the line when we get the other screw-overs.
Just angry.
You guys taste that? Something really bitter in the air.
Yeah.
Bitter party of one.
That's what happens when it's your class. Anything else big before you guys get back to your double XP weekend?
Larry, your kids. Why are they not covered in peanut butter and mulch?
I don't know.
What?
With I don't know, Burn, I don't know where this went. What is he
Done. We're done.
You have lost all control, sir.
Yeah,
were they holding out a check? Looked like they were holding up a check.
I don't know.
Send that to Blizzard. They need the extra tenner. Larry Everett.
Oh, God.
Follow him on the Twitter at Shadow SHADDOE and go check out the Hyperspace Beacon.
Hyperspacevegan.com. I talked about the new flashpoints this week, and I have video to prove it. And I don't know what he's doing.
I don't know
Just
why I'm
ignore this.
mesmerized by just a piece of paper
Ignore
just,
this.
just flashing up and down. Laura Williams, follow her on Twitter at VoidMinx, VOIDMINX, and right here on the Republic every single Thursday at 6 Pacific. Always a pleasure. And thanks for joining us. Always have a seat open for the Mr. Mark Byrne. Follow him on Twitter at MagicMan, MIGAICKMANN, and a bunch of other shows, like every show in Game Breaker. So
Send me $10 because I need to turn it over to Blizz.
yes, that's basically how it works. You can follow me on Twitter, Gary Gannon. Follow Gamebreaker TV, Gamebreaker TV, and check out the brand new website, fully designed for mobile. If you haven't checked it out, check it out on your mobile device. It looks pretty damn awesome, and it's a pleasure to use, not like that old one. So have a great weekend and get some double XP, and we'll see you next week for some more Republic.